within my group.
Hi, my name is Himanshu. I'm a senior research scientist at the Center for Space Research at UT. I am a geodesist, I'm a space geodesist. Geodesy is the study of Earth, and I study the Earth from space. I work with this series of missions called GRACE. They are joint NASA German missions. So the idea is that what the mission does is measure the changes in the Earth's gravity as water moves around the Earth. So water moves, mass changes around the Earth, and that changes the gravity. And that's how we try to understand how water is moving around the Earth. Just to give you a perspective of what we're talking about, the acceleration due to gravity, 9.8 meters per second square. When we get rain and floods and droughts, that acceleration due to gravity changes in the 9th decimal place, and that's what we measure. So that's my day job.
Hi, I'm Grace. I'm an undergraduate at UT Austin studying ECE. I was on 2881 Lady Cans, if anyone knows that team. And I actually graduated from Westwood. That was fun.
Thank you so much for those introductions. Now I wanted to start off with a little bit of an introduction to y'all's engineering careers. The first question I wanted to ask is, what actually got you into the engineering field? Like whether it was an experience, a course, a class. We just want to know a little more about what really roped you in.
Okay, I guess I'll start. So I actually got into engineering because of robotics. So the first robotics competition I did was BEST. I don't know if any of y'all know it. It's kind of sort of like VEX, but I started BEST in middle school, and that really got me hooked on engineering. And so I went to high school, did engineering there, and I was like, oh, I want to be an engineer. And that's kind of just how I got started.
My cousins and friends still make fun of me that none of my toys were ever functional. They all just were broken. And that was primarily because I was always tinkering with them, opening them up, trying to figure out how it works. So I guess that's where the love of engineering started for me. Then I think, just like everybody else, I followed the crowd into the engineering field.
So how many of you are actually not sure you're going to get into engineering? So this is many years ago when I started. When I was 17, I wanted to be a fashion designer. So what I want to say is that it doesn't really matter why you ended up in engineering, because we humans are very flexible in what we find and what we do. Even though I was not enthusiastic about engineering, I'm doing pretty well for myself. So you just have to go at it. Doesn't mean that you absolutely know what you want to do. That doesn't happen. I feel like it doesn't happen until later in your life. Himanshu, you're lucky. You know what you were doing, you wanted to do when you were a kid. I did not. So it's all okay. It's going to work out fine.
For me, I got introduced to engineering through Hour of Code. I'm sure all of you or some of you did this in elementary school or in middle school. But I did Hour of Code, and then I got hooked on building these little JavaScript apps on Khan Academy, like making a little snowman, or making shapes move around the screen. So that was what did it for me. And then I got into robotics in middle school through my friend Sohan, and we started like Lego League, and then I got introduced to like the first pipeline and everything. So that's kind of how it all started for me.
It's great to hear how you all started out in engineering, and it's nice to know that even if we don't know exactly where we want to go, there's a future in both engineering and outside of it as well. As you were saying, where humans are very flexible with that. Now we'll dive into the actual guiding questions. So, Mr. Sabe, what does a normal day look like you in research, and how much of it is actually teamwork versus independent work?
So, how much of it is teamwork versus individual? I would say about 30% of it is independent research for me. The rest of it is with, it's collaborations. So a typical day it involves these days a bunch of meetings, but it involves meeting with colleagues across in Europe with the German Space Center, the German Space Agency, and with JPL. They are our partners in the mission. And so a lot of collaborations happen with them. We have a locally team, about 15 people, so all the work is done collaboratively. And then all of us also have our independent research projects that we have to work on independently. So that's...
Yeah, thank you so much for that insight. My next question is actually for Ms. Grace. So I know you mentioned that you did the ECE program. I wanted to ask what actually helped you make that decision and what got you into choosing ECE?
Fun fact, I went and asked my dad, hey, what kind of engineering do you think I should do? And he was like, ECE, and I was like, okay, I guess we're doing ECE. In that vein, right, I knew I was going into engineering, and I guess when I was applying, my main choices were, am I doing CS, am I doing mechanical engineering, or am I doing ECE, right? And at that point in time, I wanted to do that for robotics, but I didn't necessarily want to work on like mechanical stuff. So I was like, oh, okay, electrical stuff sounds more fun to me. So I ended up in ECE. That was basically kind of my thought process. And then in ECE, actually, we have a bunch of different tracks at UT. And so from there, right, you can basically choose kind of like what sort of track you want to do. Like we have like nanotechnology, data science, we have like a CS software engineering track, embedded systems, computer architecture, and whatnot. So I ended up really liking ECE because, if I didn't necessarily join to do like mechanical and like robotics kind of engineering, I could pick something else, right? So I did end up changing my mind. I'm computer architecture right now. I chose the computer architecture track right now, but yeah. And so for me, ECE had a lot of like options beyond just like, oh, okay, you picked one thing, now you gotta stick with it, which is something you would want to consider if you're going to UT because UT's schools are very like segmented. So you jump in immediately. Like you join mechanical engineering, you're doing like physics and stuff for mechanical engineering like immediately first semester.
Wow, that's really interesting. Especially that at UT and schools like that, you might think that you need to pick one thing, but I guess you might find what you really like along the way. Mr. Deshpande, after all of your experiences, what is one thing you would have liked to do differently?
One thing I would have liked to do differently, I think I placed a lot of pressure on myself throughout college and high school. It's very easy to get into the loop of, well, if I spend all of my time working, I can definitely get everything done because, I've spent all my time working on, whatever project or whatever homework I have. And so I just did that most of college. I would refuse to go out with friends because I was working on stuff, whether it's personal projects or stuff for Longhorn racing or, stuff for class. So I think if I had to choose something to do differently, I think I would spend a little bit less time working and a little bit more time focusing on my mental health and, hanging out with friends because I think I made the mistake of looking back and saying, I wish I had, more time with friends, but, now that I'm almost graduated, I'm gonna start a job and move somewhere else. But I'm never gonna look back and say, man, I wish I had done more work. Unless you're really, really not doing anything.
I mean, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like it's relatable to a lot of us in some aspect. And yeah, I just think that it's very realistic. My next question is for Ms. Lay. Out of all of your experiences, I wanted to ask, what's your favorite project that you've worked on or collaborated on in the past?
I have to actually say that the most interesting thing that's happening is what's happening right now with AI. It's the most exciting thing that has happened since, I don't know, how long. So if I know that you guys know my kids, you've seen me around doing FTC refing. I know Westwood is not allowing AI products, but here's the problem. If you go to the work area now, and you don't know how to prompt an AI, you will not have a job. So consider that and use that in your... I had my youngest daughter in 4th grade. She and her FLL, First Lego League kids, group of 5, vibe coded with Claude in 2 hours. An app for 3 different things for FLL. So do not be discouraged by the system telling you that, school, whatever, whether it be college, whether it be high school. Embrace this thing. This thing is not going anywhere. So that is the most exciting thing I know.
Yeah, I guess now AI's got to be one of those tools you know but don't abuse. So now for round 2. Mr. Sabe, what is one of the most memorable breakthroughs or failures that you can recall?
I think this one really comes to mind. So I was working on a previous mission. It was the original Grace. The mission ended in 2017. The mission was designed for 5 years. All the instruments were designed for 5 years, but kept it extending. We had the resources on board to have a long mission. The next mission was scheduled but got delayed, and so if the first mission dies, then there was going to be a gap in the science data. And I think the robotics kids here will appreciate this. Actually, anyone who has cell phone will appreciate this. That it came down to the batteries on the old mission. We started losing cells on each of the batteries, which means that the capacity on those were not enough to operate all the instruments as the satellites go through 16 revolutions every day. So about 30 to 40 minutes in shadow, and so we had to get together, think outside the box, and get to a point where we could operate instruments so that we could keep collecting the science data. There was a time when we actually, all our colleagues from Germany, from California, we were on the phone for 24 hours, non-stop, trying to get the satellites to continue to work, because basically the batteries were dying and we were spewing fuel and the mission would have ended. And we managed to save the mission, and the mission actually lasted another year after that event. I think that was really, really very memorable. That's what I think.
Wow, that is really cool. My next question is for Ms. Grace. What is something you wish you knew before you decided to start engineering in college?
Let's see, something I wish I knew before I started engineering in college. I guess one of the things, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So I think my freshman year I was doing 16 hours of classes, which is a lot at UT per semester, and it was not it actually. I didn't do very well in terms of like, you know, mental health, friendships, and whatnot. And so I guess the one thing I was thinking about, my sophomore year, I was like, okay, our hard stop, only 3 engineering classes a semester, because I can't handle 4, because it just gets to be a lot, because engineering classes are daily homework, or not daily homework, but weekly homeworks, weekly assignments, and it just starts piling up even though it doesn't look like it's that much. So yeah, there's a couple things I feel like I could have saved for senior year where like right now I'm like, oh, it's not too bad. I'm not taking that many classes. So yeah, just remember it's a marathon, not a sprint. Take your time.
Thank you for your insight on that. I feel like a lot of us are just endlessly running trying to pick up as many APs to get into a good college, and then, but even there, I guess the work just never stops. You gotta learn how to enjoy yourself while you're in the moment. Now for our next question.
So let me add a little bit of color to this. Grace happens to be, I know Grace through FTC Graphic. And she happens to be my first, I gave her the first internship for her at AMD. And now she abandoning me and going to NVIDIA after graduation, just so we know what's the story here. So I've been interviewing interns this year. Let me tell you, all the resumes are extremely impressive. I've got people like kids that are in like, third year college, and their resumes look just amazing. Thanks to AI, but they were also doing a lot of this work. So from my past experience, what I can say is that, Grace is, really want to go get it, but, and you were echoing about this as well, college life is your best life, like best time of your life. Don't try to rush through it. Himanshu is in college all times.
I am still there.
You're still there, I know, right? But take your time. Don't try to rush and graduate in 3 years. Take your 4 years, enjoy it. I rushed out of college because I was very poor. My family was very poor. I wanted to have a job so badly so I could support myself. And I did. But then I had my entire 20s and 30s, I was looking at other people going, damn it, I didn't do any of those fun things that you guys did. So this is not fair. So think about that when you're just only emphasizing on academics. It's not all that.
Yeah, thank you for that advice. Something I wanted to ask to Ishan is, I heard that you were a part of the UT Longhorn solar racing team. So I wanted to ask how that's affected you as you're both pursuing your academic studies and also leading the technical team there.
Yeah, sure. I can talk about that. So I'm on the solar car team. I have been since my freshman year of college. I was the controls lead my third year, which basically meant I handled all the embedded systems related to controlling the car, the motor control, driver interface, stuff like that. Now I'm the Tracksim lead, where I do like vehicle simulation and modeling. It's definitely a lot of work, and it's not something to be taken lightly. I think my biggest regret, I guess not a regret, but more something I missed out on was I had to drop 2 different research programs that I was in my freshman year and my sophomore year because I was so invested in this car and I couldn't make the time. So I guess as a bit of advice for everyone, time management is very, very important. You need to choose what your priorities are and you need to balance them well. You need to plan out like what you're spending time on and where you're spending time. I'm now in a full research program and I'm loving it and I'm able to do it while balancing the solar car stuff. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, I guess that's how it affected my academic experiences. you have to know where to put your time, but also I think the best part about doing something is picking one or two things and doing them extremely well, rather than trying to split your focus among a lot of different things. It's great to be focused on a few things like classes, maybe one club, but don't try to join every single org and every single research program at the same time, or you'll get burnt out super quick.
Thank you for your insight on that. Now for one final guided question to wrap this section up. For Ms. Medve, in this tech field, especially in AI, which is constantly changing and improving, how do you stay at the forefront of it and actually get the most out of it?
I no longer have a hobby. What I do is I do AI vibe coding all day. And it's fun, to be honest, it's very fun. Yeah, that's my new hobby. And I get paid for it, so that's good. That's essentially it. And so talking about time management from before, my second in command in my team, he's really, really good. He's just smart, does his work, uses AI, does leading edge stuff. Time management is what I'm trying to train him for. He needs to focus on deliverables and not just be sidetracked by every single pretty thing that's out there. Because with the AI, you will see many, many pretty things. Focus on what you need to deliver. And then you can have the rest of the time do something else. Don't just work. That's it.
Right, thank you. So it seems like the repeated advice we're hearing is don't rush it and make sure that you know your priorities and you don't try to do everything at once. So that wraps up our guided questions section. Thank you so much for all of your insights. And now we'll break for an intermission and we'll have pizza.
Do we have enough?
In about 15 to 20 minutes.
Shut up. I was not informed of this. Shut up. I was not informed of this, bro. Just open it. She's
How was your trip?
oh, shit.
The A&B had no listing.
Loki does not have a beard. Yeah. Loki, that's too high. There's no good place to put it.
I just was hoping it gets done the same day, but
Whatever, over. Is this a JPEG? JLG? Yo, it's definitely picking that up on stream. Yeah, that's right. You think there'll be slices once they're all done? Hopefully. Actually, I don't know how. I don't really care. I haven't finished eating my lunch, so I don't think I care.
Hello.
yeah.
Sorry?
get back started. So to start off the second half, we'll start with a game of this or that. This includes audience participation, guys. Audience participation. And for our panelists.
Okay. The first one is hardware versus software. Okay, everyone should be raising their hand for one. Okay. First, I'm gonna ask hardware. Okay. There's a lot of hardware members. What about software? Okay. Okay. So, yeah, I think hardware won that one.
Does anyone vote? That makes sense. Best of both worlds. Next, we have team projects or solo work. So who prefers team projects? And then solo work?
This is a preference. Does anyone want to share why they prefer team projects versus solo work?
All right. Next, this or that is early mornings versus late nights. We'll start with early mornings. Ooh, wow. And then late nights? What about late nights that turn into early mornings? They just do both.
Now we're gonna get into our rapid fire round. So that means quick answers, one sentence or less. Or actually, you can expand a little if you want to.
We can just go down the line from Ishan down to Grace for each of these questions. So first, what is one skill every engineer should build outside of technical knowledge?
For me, like I said earlier, I think it's time management.
Take an interest in your community.
Thinking outside the box.
Be able to communicate your ideas clearly.
My next question would be, what's the biggest misconception about engineering?
That one's a hard one. Give me a second.
I'll pass it on.
Engineering or engineers? I don't know. Maybe there's a misconception out there that all engineers are nerds. Not all of them.
Most of us are nerds.
So the earlier question was about whether you're hardware or software. I was a double E major, a pure double E major in college. And now I don't touch a single hardware. I suck at circuit theory. I got 65. So that was a sign that I was not suited for hardware. I didn't know, I was not smart enough to figure it out. What I'm trying to say is, don't pigeonhole yourself. You're not pigeonholed by anything. You can do anything you want.
Biggest misconception about engineering, I'd say you can't just, I guess people do this, but I guess you shouldn't just coast your way through school and expect it'll work out okay. Like, I know people who have gone through their entire college career without learning Git or without, soldering signal thing. And I think to some extent you can learn that stuff on the job. Like, it's not terrible to learn it on the job, but I think focusing in school and applying yourself trains you for the application of your skills in your job, I guess. So I'd say that.
I just add to the pigeonhole comment here. Yes, do not do that. Keep yourself open to other ideas and other opportunities. I did civil engineering as my undergraduate, and now I'm supporting space missions. So,
misconception about engineering. You don't have to know what you want to do. I think at school, a lot of kids will be like, or students, sorry, not kids, will be like, oh, hey, I know what I want to do. I know what I want to do, this path or that path, right? You don't have to know what you want to do. It'll come to you as you do projects, as you take classes. So don't worry about it if you don't know what you want to do.
All right, and now for our last rapid fire round question. What is one habit, mindset, or resource that you'd recommend?
I'm starting and I'm looking at my phone because I think I wrote something down. I guess I think I would echo my point from earlier, do one thing and do it well. In high school especially, there's the temptation to try to boost your resume as much as possible by doing DECA and HOSA and robotics and every club under the sun. At least for me, the approach I've found that works the best is, pick one or two things and really hone in on them, really focus on them. It's not only how you'll get the best sort of for example, essay to write about, but also how you'll discover your own passions and your own interests. So yeah, I'd like to echo that.
So recently I've actually been talking to my director about this thing called agency. It's come to my mind a lot about how young people can succeed in this world. And I don't think that has changed, this thing called agency. And the same thing applies when you're in school and when you are out in the work field. Make problems your own. Solve problems. Have the agency to do it. That doesn't mean that, I'm not interested in anything. I'm going to be a Valorant diamond level. That does not count. Use your agency in your everyday work, and that, knowing Git and all that is one aspect of it, but I look for people who have agency in what they do. That is the biggest get. That is a skill, that is a character trait that you need in order to succeed. It doesn't matter what you do. And the other thing I want to address, I'm sorry if I'm wasting a lot of time, but there was some conception at some point, because I led a robotics team, FTC robotics team, is that women engineers are not very good at robotics. And that is a huge misconception, especially that I'm in the software engineer. My organization, 100 people, we had 3, 4 women engineers, and I'm still one of them. And I'm leading teams. I am being the principal member of the team, engineering team. I'm not doing management work, I'm doing technical work. Men and women, their brain work differently. Just because our brain works differently doesn't mean that we can contribute to a bigger project, in different ways. So speaking to the, women, girls of this that's attending today, don't be intimidated by all the boys. Once you get into the work field, it does not matter. That intimidation factor I hope that boys will learn from this. Don't try to intimidate women engineers or girl engineers, because they have depth, okay?
I will second that. Yes, absolutely. Do not get intimidated, and this is real. So to answer the question, I would say always be willing to learn new things, no matter how old you get. Always try to learn new things, whether it's your field, something else. You'll always find something you like. Curiosity, always be curious. That's how you will learn. And then the depth part is absolutely look for depth in whatever you do. Not just a lot of depth.
I'll say this, like I intern at NVIDIA in the hardware side. I was maybe one of 2 women engineers on our like 30-person team, right? So it does get like, oh, you are like maybe 1 of 2, right? But you are just as good as everyone else there. You are there for a reason, so don't give up. And on that note, one thing I want to say is like challenge yourself, right? Don't be like at school, there are easy projects and there are hard projects. Don't always go the easy route. Sometimes you do have to because you don't have the time or bandwidth, time management, right? But if you are really interested in something, make sure you challenge yourself because that's how you develop the skills that you are going to need to like do well in the engineering field, right? Like, you know, hey, say like the embedded, we have a class that our first project, I think there's a final project and it's like code a game, right? And for this project, you can either do the game that they give you, which is like I think it's like a Space Invaders, or you can do something of your own, right? And something of your own is definitely harder, but you learn more. You learn more about how you put together data structures, how you should do timers, whatnot. So yeah, make sure you challenge yourself.
Yeah, thank you for all the insight. I think we covered a lot of like interesting aspects, especially like the gender misconceptions involved. My next question would be what is one advice that you'd want to give every student here looking into going into one of these fields?
I think we covered how these guys. I mean, you know, curiosity, always be willing to learn new things. Go find the person that that you think is better than you. It is uncomfortable, but you will learn a lot from that person.
So this may be a little early for high school kids because you still have many years before you graduate and go get a job. Life is not fair. Once you get out of high school, get out of college, whatever degree they're getting, life is no longer judged by your grades. The school system has a very, very systematic way of measuring success. That is completely not true when you go into the real world. So when you're chasing that 99.5 average, I want you to think about that. This is only going to matter in the next year or 2. After that, what else do you have that you want to rather do than chase that 99.5 average? This is a thing that even for parents. I have parents, robotics parents, are fighting with me. Why didn't our team advance? Why didn't we get call back? Why shouldn't we? We did so well. Life is not fair. Once you get out of school, life is not fair. The sooner you acclimate that, the happier you'll be.
I suppose I'd like to add to that. I think I definitely agree. I think life is very unfair. I think, especially to those of you who, chase that last drop of GPA that you can get out of the system, I would say, get a hobby.
Have you honed your skills to talk with people, make conversation? Yeah,
have you honed your skills, communicating with other people? Have you honed your skills, selling yourself? Have you honed your skills to, time management, to do things? Have you honed your skills to go get things that you want to get? Instead of, because when you're in school, everything's given you. You have given the course, you're given the test, you're given the grade. When you get out of school, none of those things are given. Are you ready to go get them? Get the things that you want. And that takes persistence. It doesn't mean that you're going to get it just because you put in hard work. What other things can you do to get to where you want to go? So those are the things I want you guys to think about. It's too early for you, but think about that as you're going through your college years. You still have time to think about those things. Once you get into the workforce, you're kind of forced to think about it, whether you like it or not. And you'll be grumpy if you don't think about it ahead of time.
I guess I'm going to echo that. So my piece of advice would be like, learn how to sell yourself and go, like the worst thing they can say is no, right? Like when you go out like finding internships, right, in your first year, go to those recruiting events, go ask. The worst thing they can say is no, right? Like, oh yeah, maybe we don't want you right now, but make sure you go out because like if you don't take that chance, no one's going to give it to you.
Grace is a go-getter. Let me just put it out there. She's a go-getter. She's a good example, even though I dislike her right now. She's a good example for that.
Thank you so much for your final pieces of advice and takeaways. And now we'd like to open up it to the audience for questions. So if any of you guys have any questions, feel free to ask now.
I can just project. So I was just like wondering, how do you find like clubs and organizations in college that you like? Do you join a bunch, or do you like look for one or two, or like how do you find
I guess for me, a strategy that seemed to work was there's like a bunch of fairs at the beginning of school where you get to browse all of the clubs. But additionally, a lot of clubs will have a free t-shirt or free food on your first day at the club. So what I did was I ran the circuit and I went to a bunch of clubs, every single club I could, and I would get all the free food and learn a little bit about what they're offering. And then I would make my decision on, okay, I want to pursue one or two things in this, or one or two things.
I think I have to say is, not a piece of advice from me, but a piece of advice from my friend. She's like, have one social club, so have one thing you enjoy doing, and then have one thing that is more like worth doing, like something that helps you advance your career. Like for me, well, I did research, so I wasn't really in a club my first year, but I joined IEEE Robotics Automation Society, and that was kind of my social club. They do like, it depends, they do robotics competitions, they do like low-key robotics, like less pressure work stuff. Like they don't have a deadline for that robot, so that was my social club, right? So pick one club that you want to do work on, or one thing you want to do work on that you can put on your resume, and the other one, pick a social club, so you're not like only working all the time.
Yeah, as somebody who didn't pick a social club, I'm now regretting it, so pick a social club.
Does anyone else have any questions?
How did you weigh the advantages of taking a master's course or any job? Was there any reason why you decided to take a master's instead of just getting a job after undergraduate?
So I'll repeat the question for anybody who didn't hear, but it was, how do you decide between getting a job and doing a master's? And this is a question that's very divisive, I think. There's a lot of different answers people would give to this question. It really depends on who you are. For me, I'm somebody that enjoys, I really enjoy learning and taking different classes and learning a lot about, especially like stuff that's not necessarily in my purview, right? So I guess for me, the reason I decided to do the master's is simply because I wanted to take more classes. I wanted to, I felt like there was more that the UT engineering experience had to offer me. And I just really enjoyed taking classes, so I think I took my time.
I got a master's because I couldn't find a job. There you go. After 2 years of me getting masters, the market changed, I got jumped, so there you go.
In my case, I got a PhD at UT, and partly the reason was that I didn't get a job at the time, and being in aerospace engineering at the time, and being an international student at that, I couldn't get a job in the industry because it was all different. And so the story was written for me in research.
For me, so I originally wanted a master's. I think there's a lot in engineering that you can learn if you get a master's. However, this is my senior year and I had a job opportunity, and so I was like, okay, I'm waiting to get a job opportunity, going to get a master's or integrated master's at UT. And when I thought more about it, I was like, okay, some job companies allow you to do a master's while you do work as well. And so I was like, okay, so I might want to consider going to a new place to like meet new people. Because for me, like, yes, I'm gonna learn a lot from masters, but also it's like the people you're gonna meet and like who you're gonna talk to and like, you know, who you're gonna learn from, right? And so I decided that I did want to integrate it at UT because I felt like I learned a lot from the people I have here, and I want to go somewhere else to do a master's. So I'll probably go work and then do a working master's, so I get the experience of the master's, but you know.
We have a couple of people in AMP my group that is currently or gotten a master's degree while they work for us.
Yeah. I have a friend actually, he accepted a full-time NVIDIA here in Austin. He's doing part-time masters at UT, part-time, full-time working, right? So there's plenty of opportunities.
And because me and my husband both have masters, my kids will all have masters because they cannot do worse than their parents. End of story. So if your parents are PhDs, that's where you're gonna have to go. Sorry.
So I have a question. I have two questions. So for Lay and Himanshu, my question to you guys is that if you have to go back and do high school all over again, based on all that you know, what will you do different? Or what is something that comes to your mind that, oh, this is what I'll do different than what I've done? And for both of you, you graduated from Westwood. So when you look back, what are the things that you think that the school needs to do different that should have helped you or could have helped you in your college?
Did you say at high school or college?
High school.
High school. Well, actually, so the high school I came from, there were absolutely zero extracurricular activities, opportunities for robotics and all these other things. So that is absolutely one thing that I would love to have done. Looking at what you guys are exposed to with robotics and hackathons and DECA, I would have loved to have some of that experience.
Learn to ignore other people. It does not matter. Most people are thinking about themselves, they don't care about you. So,
I guess the question for me was how the school could improve. Let's see, I think at least when I was here, I don't know if it's changed, but the robotics team started, when I joined, we were all operating out of garages. We would take a bus to our president's garage and work there until the nightfall. So I think in terms of that, like Westwood needs to see what it has in like this robotics team, which is, a great resource for people to learn, a great way for people to get interested in engineering, and I guess support.
There's a lot of red tape from the district, from the school, that limits the funding and all of that stuff, so, yeah.
I kind of feel for, the robotics sponsor. It's a very low-paying job with many, many hours. So this is sort of not just a school problem, but district level, but then even, talking about bigger political environments and all that. So if you guys ever, become a politician and have some say in the matter, consider throw some funding into the education system.
I say I have to agree with Ishan, right? I think Westwood here has a lot of good clubs and good opportunities for students that it needs to help better support. I wasn't in the Westwood Robotics team, so I did not get that experience. But my experience with some of the other clubs here, they could have just had more funding and more, people available to help students figure out what they want to do and later on. And also, teachers need more pay. I feel bad for our teachers.
But Ishan, I must say things have improved quite a bit since your team was operating on it.
I'm glad to hear.
It's come a long way.
Yeah. And that's by many people fighting for it. Many, many people involved. From various different levels of people that you don't even know that has been fighting for it.
What do you think people look for when they're interviewing for like internships and stuff like that? Is there like
Interviews are a crapshoot, both for the interviewee and the interviewer. I've had people that young kids come in and interview just like this the entire time, which, I know you may not be a high energy person, but when you come into an interview, you are a high energy person. You need to eye contact, engagement, ask interesting questions or ask questions that engages. Google will spit out at you for very many things, but don't just use them from a formula, but use them as the situation applies. And the more interviews you do, the better. It doesn't matter if you fail, it does not matter. Do 20 interviews. By the 20th time, you're a pro. The first time you'll be glitching, but don't be afraid. Do it again.
Yeah, I think there was a theme earlier that communication, right? I think that's one thing. I think the school can help with that. How do you sell your skills? You have those 15 minutes with the interviewer, and pretty much in the first 5 minutes, you've pretty much made the decision. In that sense. So
some people say 30 seconds.
Yeah. So those first 30 seconds, a minute. How do you sell yourself? You have so many things to talk about, but you need to get that attention. So I think you need to work on that. And I think school can help.
I'm an attention to detail person, so if you put it on your resume, you better be ready for me to ask you a question, and you have a ready answer. It really pisses me off when I start asking you and you start looking for words to say when you're trying to say. That's not a good sign, and that's usually means that I will not be proceeding.
I wanted to extend even beyond the interview process, but in college when you're looking for jobs, people ask how many jobs should I be applying to? Apply to as many as you can. It doesn't matter if it's, especially when you're a freshman or sophomore, I think it's very important to just apply to whatever is there. I applied to, I think, 100 plus jobs my freshman year, my sophomore year, and I maybe got 3 interviews out of those. So, it's very important to just apply wherever.
One more thing.
It's okay to lie, okay, in an interview. I had one very senior person, very good. I worked with him for a few years. I know he's a very good person. He comes into an interview, he goes, AMD is in the house. I don't know that I want to commute here. That's just really tough. Guess what? He didn't get the job. I don't care. Lie.
Sorry. Okay, I was gonna say, so I have friends still interviewing for companies even though they have signed offers. So interviewing is just one of those things where you just have to do more to get better at it. You can do mock interviews, you can do whatever, but it really just helps that you're interviewing and just practicing. It's just something you practice. On that note, if you're interviewing for an engineering interview and you don't know the answer for the question, don't say, I don't know. Start talking. Start trying. Yeah.
It's okay to say you don't know. Just, but you know, phrase it backwards. Ask the questions back.
Yeah. Don't like say, oh, I don't know, and just shut down. Make sure you start asking questions, trying to figure out. Because I think, from my experience, I haven't interviewed anyone before, but when I'm talking to people, like senior engineers, they're like, we want to see that you have the mind of an engineer, that you're able to learn and adapt, because you might not know what the job does, or like, one role I had, they were like, yeah, no one teaches this stuff in school. It was infrastructure engineering, so like pipelines, Jenkins, a lot of words that you probably don't know. But like, they're like, no one teaches this stuff in school. We just want to see that you can think like an engineer, that you can say, oh, hey, I don't know how to do this exactly, but how do I approach this? How do I dissect it so that maybe I can break it down to smaller problems that I know how to do? So yeah, just don't shut down in the middle of an interview. That's probably the worst thing you can do.
Recommend doing like co-ops, internships, or research? Like which one is like most like valuable? Do you think like have y'all done? And like when you're doing like trying to get a research position with a professor, how are you supposed to like contact them and just like how?
For me, I've done 2 of the 3. So I've done internships and I've done research. I haven't done a co-op, and that's because I didn't really think, and this is just my opinion, that I could get the same amount of experience out of the co-op, or I thought I could do it with just internships and be fine. Not to say that co-ops are bad. I don't think co-ops are bad at all. But research is definitely a valuable experience. It's a different thinking process entirely. I would say do some research when you're in undergrad, like join some research work. Even if you do it for only a semester, it's a very valuable experience to have. And internships are definitely a must in this day and age.
So it depends on what you want to do. If you want to be a PhD student, then research, you should emphasize more research. Coming from an industry standpoint, I don't look at a research experience. I see resumes with kids with all kinds of research experience. I only look for the internship or the co-op experience. So it really depends on what you're looking for, what you think you want to go. If you want to, fill your resume with various different experiences, that's certainly would be fine. You can make a decision later what you want to do.
No, I'm in academia, so I do deal with a lot of students who research. But I always encourage them to, you won't know whether you like industry to actually go try it out.
So for you, like what would you look for in people who are trying to like apply to like research with you?
So usually in that sense, when I get applications for sort of do research, it typically ends up being what is my need at the time, right? Whether it's right fit or not. And it's usually being at the right place at the right time for the student. Like, hey, I was looking for this skill and I see that skill in your resume, I'll go.
I think just show up and bother you.
And actually that's the thing, especially for research, it's just showing up, showing your interest in it. Sometimes cold calls are okay.
Yeah.
You might just get ignored, but.
Yeah. Unlike in the industry, it's very difficult to do a cold call nowadays. But if you're on campus and you're sharing,
the campus with the professor, go show up. Bother them every day, right, Grace? Because that's how you got it, right?
Yeah, so I can speak a little bit more on this. So I entered, so first of all, if you're going to the College of Natural Sciences, they have a fun thing called the Freshman Research Initiative. I think it's still active. Don't quote me on that. I did see something saying they weren't going to cancel it, but I also don't trust half things I see from UT, so that's besides the point. So Freshman Research Initiative basically pairs you with a professor, gets you started on research, which is really nice because you don't have to do all the cold calling and all the sniffing around. But unlike the the natural sciences department, the engineering department does not have a freshman research initiative, so I had to do a bunch of sniffing around. So what I basically did is I'd find a couple professors that I liked their labs, I liked their research papers. Basically I picked a research paper that I thought looked interesting, I read it, I was like, oh, this is cool, and then I emailed the professor saying, hey, I saw your research paper, I think this is interesting, hey, can we, meet up to talk about it, or do you have any open spots in your lab? Here's my resume, right? And all the professors at UT, especially in the engineering department, are really, really nice. Like, I love most of the professors there. You can basically go up and talk to them and be like, hey, I'm interested in research. And also, your professors, your classes. Some professors will basically be like, hey, I am kind of sort of looking for research people, right? If you are interested and you do well in that class, go talk to them. Or even if you don't do the best in their class, right? As long as you show you're interested. Like, I think I had a friend in sophomore year, one of our programming teachers is like, yeah, every year I teach this class. If you're interested in doing research with me and you do well in my class, come talk to me. I'll see what I can do for research. Research is also easier to get in the summer because a lot of professors are looking for summer research assistants, right? If you don't have anything to do with your summer, go do research. It helps, right? In terms of, you asked about research and then internships and co-ops and whatnot. Okay, from my experience, like internships, co-ops, not gonna lie, co-ops are a little easier to get into because not a lot of people are applying for co-ops because, hey, you have to give up a school semester, right? If you're choosing to do a co-op, make sure you plan your schedule accordingly, especially if you want to graduate on time with your friends, right? But I think co-ops are really valuable experiences because I personally have not done a co-op, but I have a couple friends that have done co-ops and they really enjoyed it because not only...
So the other thing is the availability, right? It's very important. Summer internships are almost zero chance of getting in. So you need to consider that and shift yourself to a different schedule. Don't keep thinking that if you want industry experience, and it's very vital now for a job, if you're looking for a job, you almost absolutely have to have co-op experience. So co-op or internship experience. So branch that out, don't plan it ahead, don't just stick with the schedule. Figure out if you can take a semester off.
Especially since co-ops are longer too, so you get to learn more. Like, I had a friend go to NVIDIA for a perf lab internship, so performance lab. That kind of internship is an 8-month internship, right? And it starts in the spring, and it's a co-op, and then it goes into the summer. So, like, the co-ops definitely give you more time to get to know industry stuff, learn more industry stuff, and they're also much easier to acquire. Take that advice in mind. Is there anything else that I covered everything?
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys so much for attending, and thank you all of our panelists for sharing your experience and your advice.